Have you ever moved into a new house thinking it was the start of something beautiful, only to realize it was the beginning of your worst nightmare? This story isn't just about a haunted house. It's about a newborn baby that carried the darkness with her. If you think you've heard it all when it comes to paranormal encounters, you haven't heard this. A month ago, the Peterson family was living their dream. Sarah and Daniel had just welcomed their first baby, Emily. Like any new parents, they wanted more space to grow as a family, so they purchased a charming two-story home in a quiet neighborhood. The house seemed perfect, freshly renovated, a spacious backyard, and that sense of comfort you look for when you're building a life. But sometimes, perfection is just a mask for something sinister. It started small. The first night in the new house, Emily cried every few hours, which Sarah and Daniel brushed off as normal for a newborn. But what they didn't expect was the way the cries sounded. They didn't echo like they should in the large, empty rooms. Instead, it was like the sound was dampened, muffled, as if the walls were swallowing the noise. By the second week, the small things started piling up. Emily's room was always colder than the rest of the house, no matter how high they turned up the heat. The mobile above her crib, the one that had belonged to Sarah as a baby, would spin on its own, perhaps even when the windows were shut tight. One night, Daniel was jolted awake by a faint scratching sound. He thought it was the tree outside brushing against the window, but when he got up to check, he froze. The scratching wasn't coming from outside, it was coming from inside Emily's room. He opened the door slowly, his heart racing, only to find Emily staring at the ceiling, wide-eyed and completely still. The mobile above her wasn't just spinning, it was spinning backward, fast enough that it looked like it might break off. Daniel grabbed Emily and brought her into their bedroom, where Sarah was already awake. She said she'd been hearing whispers through the baby monitor for weeks, but hadn't wanted to scare him. At first, they thought they could fix it, call a priest, maybe smudge the house with sage. They even brought in a paranormal investigator, a quiet woman named Lorraine, who told them something they didn't want to hear. The house isn't haunted, your daughter is. The words didn't make sense at first. How could a baby, pure and innocent, be the source of this terror? Lorraine explained that sometimes entities attach themselves to the most vulnerable, infants, because they're like blank canvases, easy to influence. But what scared Sarah and Daniel the most wasn't that their baby might be haunted. It was what Lorraine said next. Whatever is attached to her, it's been with her since before she was born. The nights grew worse. Emily's cries would echo through the house, even when she was in their arms. The mobile wasn't the only thing that moved on its own. Lights flickered, toys rolled across the floor, and once, the baby monitor played static that sounded disturbingly like a voice repeating the word mine. Desperate, they started digging into the history of their family, trying to understand where this could have come from. That's when Sarah remembered something her grandmother had told her years ago. "You were a twin," her grandmother had whispered one Christmas Eve, "but your brother didn't make it." Sarah had brushed it off as an old woman's rambling, but now it hit her like a truck. Could it be him? The idea felt impossible, but the timing lined up. Emily had been born on the exact same date that Sarah's twin had passed in the womb. It was Daniel who suggested trying one last thing before they left the house for good. They needed to confront whatever was haunting Emily. Lorraine returned, this time with equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. EMF meters, thermal cameras, and even a spirit box. As they sat in the living room, Lorraine focused on Emily, who was peacefully asleep in her carrier. She turned on the spirit box, and at first it was just static, but then a voice came through. "Mine." Sarah's heart dropped. It was the same word from the baby monitor. "Who are you?" Lorraine asked. There was silence for a long time, and then the voice responded, "Brother." Tears streamed down Sarah's face. Lorraine continued, asking why it was here, what it wanted. The answers were short and chilling. Stay, protect, mine. The entity wasn't evil, but it was possessive. It didn't want to harm Emily. It wanted to claim her. That night, Sarah made a decision. She sat in Emily's room, holding her daughter close, and spoke aloud. "I know you're here. I know you think you're protecting her, but you're scaring us. You need to let go. She's safe with us. Please let her be." For a moment, the room was unbearably cold. The mobile above the crib spun faster and faster until it suddenly stopped. And then, silence. The house felt different after that. Warmer, lighter. Lorraine told them that the spirit might still be lingering, but it had heard Sarah's plea. It's been 6 months now, and the Petersons haven't experienced anything unusual since. Emily is thriving, and they've made peace with what happened. But Sarah keeps the baby monitor in her room, just in case. Because every now and then, late at night, she swears she can hear a faint whisper, mine. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales.